Roll it.
Roll it.
Roll it.
All right, welcome back to the Volly House podcast, episode 50. What a way to start off the new year.
50?
With episode 50.
Yeah, 50. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Everyone out there. We were at Kolka Studios. So if you need a firehouse built, give them a call. Got Ryan Mackey on the sticks. Be sure to give him a follow at Max_visuals. That's MACKS. Go to volleyhousepodcast.com or DM us to ask us questions and send in stories or videos you'd like us to review. Also, give us a follow on all social media platforms at Volly House Podcast and subscribe to our channels on YouTube and Spotify. And also for people that are looking for merch and the hats and the stickers, they're all up on the website. I know a few people have been asking, so you can shoot right over there and check out the store.
I like the hat. It is really nice. We have gray and black.
Yeah, all different colors up there, and we'll be adding
sweatshirts and t-shirts and good stuff.
Yeah. So I figured we can go over some stats that we got. We put up a post on Facebook asking people to post their runs for the year for 2025. Do you want to? You have the Long Island stats up, Kev?
Yeah, the Buff Nation guy.
Yeah, shout out Buff Nation.
Shout out. There's a few different people that have the stats.
Yeah, I saw a bunch out there.
We'll go by Buff Nation's numbers, but there's a couple different ones. Nassau, 234. Suffolk, 313. Combined total, 547 jobs. JOBs. Nassau County, most working fires. Hempstead Fire Department, number 1 with 17. Westbury, number 2 with 14. Long Beach, 12. That's paid and Volly. They're both there. Elmont, 10. And Massapequa, 9. They got a big district. Suffolk County, we got Brentwood, number 1. 13 jobs.
I feel like they're always number 1 on the list.
Yeah. Smithtown, number 2 at 11, which that's surprising to me, but
busy year.
They had a busy year. They had some pretty good jobs, too. Riverhead, another big district, 11. Centereach with 11. And Hampton Bays with 10.
Hampton Bays checking in.
Yeah, I'm kind of shocked. So let's see. The first working fire was 1125. That was Prospect Avenue in Westbury. And the last working fire was 123125, and that was East Northport.
East Northport, yeah.
Yeah.
And also,
cool. Shout out to Buff Nation.
Yeah,
Check
shout
them
out to Buff Nation. And also, I'm going to shout out a couple of departments from around the country that sent in their numbers. First one, White Pine Volunteer Fire Department in East Tennessee, 1,070 runs for the year. North Toole, Utah, 1,367. Old Mystic Fire Department in Connecticut, 1,685. Prince Frederick Volunteer Fire Department in Maryland, 1,601. Mountain Grove Fire Department, Missouri, 1,450. And special shout out, this one's from Ireland, from Nass, Ireland, 673.
Nice.
Put that in there because it was pretty cool. It came from Ireland.
And there were a lot of small rural departments.
Yeah, a lot in there.
Some little numbers, 600 and 358,
yeah,
100.
I was going to say there was one that was like 58.
Yeah, there were a couple
like,
low ones. Hey, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Listen, they're serving the communities, And some of them are very rural. They don't have a lot of population, and cover some huge districts.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Job of the week. Got to give it to Lynbrook. They had the first
jobs.
2 back-to-back jobs. First job
wild.
of the year for Long Island. 2 back-to-back, and then there were a couple of them today.
Yeah, with May Days, I saw there was some information on that.
Was
not
that...
much. You had Lynbrook, East Northport, North Patchogue, and North Amityville this morning.
Yep.
North Patchogue firefighter went through the floor into the basement. From what I'm told, they used a ladder to get him out of the basement.
Was that
doing okay? One was in the. I think a couple were transported. I'm not sure exactly all the details.
Maybe like precautionary?
Yeah. But
'cause I
and then
know
North
they-
North Amityville, which they do have some paid firefighters too.
Yeah.
So I don't know the extent of it, but it was like I guess it was at North Lindenhurst address, but it was North Amityville,
Yeah, I saw that.
and they had a commercial job.
Mm-hmm.
But then I saw something later on about a May Day. A guy was missing, but they found him.
Oh, really?
I don't
I didn't
know.
see that.
Maybe it was a missed.
I was
I don't know the whole thing.
the North Patchogue, was that commercial or residential?
I think it was residential. I'm not sure.
It
could
looked
be
like-
wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know enough about it. I've been running all morning, so like going crazy.
What else
here.
is new?
I'm always running. Right?
Yeah. You're like a shark. If you stop moving, you're just going to drop dead.
What the heck? Somebody working on something here?
Maybe I thought I heard somebody in the office. Drill of the week. What do we have coming up, Kev?
So my department is doing forcible entry as our first drill this year. So we're doing some forcible entry doors and
Sounds like they're
close.
doing force entry out there right
It sounds
now.
like they're forcible entry. Yeah, yeah. Some tight quarters drills and different things with that. And then I sent it. I don't know if I don't think I posted it, but we actually took a metal door and we put carriage bolts through it. And
Okay.
we're going to have the members using saws to shear off the bolts and use a Halligan to knock off the bolts. So, yeah, it's just realistic. You know, you go to a commercial building around the rear, you're going to come across carriage bolts on the outside, and sometimes they have drop bars and stuff like that. So you knock the carriage bolts off using an axe and a Halligan or two Halligans or even a saw blade, and then you drop the bar off and you can open the door or cut the hinges off. So that's going to be the drill. Somebody was asking, I think I just sent the guy a message, but he was asking about different types of drills, like what can we do? And I sent him a picture of the door. So we have carriage bolts every 4 inches on the door so that multiple people can use it. So I said, here's a good drill. It's quick and easy, pretty cheap to do. Just find an old metal door. And with that, and I mentioned this to him, is that we're coming up with a drill book. So we're going to come up with a couple different books we're looking to put out this year. One of them is going to be quick short drills, probably 12 quick short drills and stuff for volunteer fire departments. And it could be used for paid. It doesn't really matter, but they're going to be quick, easy drills at low cost. So that's going to be one of the books we're putting together.
Yeah, low to no cost, especially for the departments out there that are low on budget.
Yep.
You know, drills that we have that you can make literally anything into a prop. You don't have to go out and
Exactly.
purchase anything.
And the other book we're looking to put together is, I won't talk about
Yeah,
that
we'll
one.
hold
We'll hold off on that one, but we're looking to come out with a couple easy books for you. I don't want to give it away because somebody else will be like, I'm going to steal that idea and do it. But, but that's one of the books we're going to come out with.
Yeah,
Is quick, easy
I would
drills.
say that. I mean, we probably within the next few weeks, honestly.
Yeah, I mean,
with
we
the
have
drill book.
the content, so it's just a matter of just
Yeah,
getting it published and out there. But it'll be a low-cost book. It'll be easy for you to understand and quick drills for your fire department or company.
Yep.
So pretty cool.
Let's also get into our sponsors that I.
Yeah, you forgot the
totally
sponsors.
missed
You
in
went
the
right
beginning.
into it. And we're still looking for sponsors.
Command Fire Apparatus. Need a reliable fire truck? Have a surplus fire truck to sell? At Command Fire Apparatus, they specialize in high-quality used fire trucks ready for your department. They're not brokers. They buy, refurbish, and sell directly to you. From pumpers to ladder trucks, they have what you need, and they pride themselves on delivering a truck to you that is ready to go in service. Join the many satisfied departments that trust them for their fire apparatus needs. Experience stress-free selling and buying today. Visit sellfiretrucks.com or call 866-238-6688. Your next fire truck is just a click away. Command Fire Apparatus is a firefighter-owned and managed company. And also, iCommand Board. As an incident commander, you know that running a scene can be chaotic. Not only are you responsible for getting the job done, but you're also responsible for the members that are putting their lives at risk. As the alarms we respond to change, so does the way we're prepared to handle them. Instead of trying to keep tabs on a whiteboard or notebook, what if there was a tool that had information and checklists that you can follow as the scene unfolds? Meet iCommand Board, a tool created by a fire chief to run flawless incident command. It's made to easily carry and fit in any responder vehicle or rig. It's also designed for any calls our departments handle and can even be customized to your department's needs. If you're looking for an affordable tool to improve your fireground capabilities, visit icommandboard.com today. All right. So,
Now you want to get going?
yeah. Restart.
Restart. Nah, it's all good. It's good mixing it in.
So, we have a few submissions and obviously a couple things to talk
We got a
about.
lot. Now, listen, it's amazing how the content just comes to you sometimes, right? It just happens.
So, we'll go through the first few submissions. First one, in my department, there are officers, including the chief, that are trying to be progressive, including adding new technologies, great training exercises, etc. On the flip side of that, there are officers and older members that want things to go back to 1995, where everyone is best friends and should be getting along, etc. Wanting everyone to get along is great, and it's nice when people do, but how do the members that routinely show up to calls, meetings, trainings, etc., deal with the bullshit and being put into arguments where it's either you're on one side or the other? So I feel like we kind of hit this topic every now and then. What do you think, Kev?
So it's a difficult road, but like I said, I truly believe that people join the fire service because they want to do things. They want to train, they want to drill. But, from time to time, even as a senior guy, sometimes you want to just lay back a little, and I get it. But I would approach senior people and see if you can get them involved in your drills. See if they're willing to share their experiences and knowledge. Even you don't have to put them on the spot. Ask them up front. Say, hey, do you mind talking for 5 minutes about, something you did in the past or a job or something you saw unusual you never saw before, and just talk to the group and see how that flows. And once people start getting involved and they start to see that it's on a positive light, because if you put them down and you make them feel like shit, then they're not going to want to help, and they're not going to want to be involved. So, try to get them involved. Try to get them involved in the way things were or they saw in the past, and see how that goes.
Yeah, I think we mentioned that before, that, I remember talking to some of the senior members in my department that it's not that they feel left out, so to speak. It's more so, yeah, you got the young guys, the middle-aged guys that are doing drills and all this stuff, and the older guys are showing up to the meetings and just kind of know what's going on. But I did approach the senior members of my company and ask them if they can come down to drills and just work with, almost be like another instructor, so to speak.
Or just a helper.
Yeah, or just a helper, and they loved it. They came down, they were all piss and vinegar because no one had asked them before.
Yeah. You're not going to change everybody. Listen,
Right.
It's just the way it is. You have to be a little progressive. You have to be, an aggressive type person or firefighter, because that's how fires go out, right? If you're going to hang back and go in defensive mode all the time, everything is just going to be a surround and drown. So, so you got to put your best foot forward. You got to try to work with people. Listen, I've reached out to people, and people are like, "No, I'm not interested." I get it. It happens. But I think on a positive note and staying moving forward, I think does the best thing.
Yeah, and then the second part of that is, how do the members that are coming down for everything deal with the bullshit, and they're getting sucked into arguments where you're either on one side or the other? I have a certain way of thinking about this where, yeah, people don't want to take sides. So either people do take sides or they stay out of it completely. And for the longest time, staying out of it completely was always the best thing to do. But what happens is nothing gets resolved. So that doesn't mean you have to pick one side, but you should, maybe if you're getting sucked into a conversation, hear out both sides and maybe offer your opinions to try and mitigate it. If you can. If it's too far out of your realm, then yeah, just stay out of it. But if it's something that, two guys aren't getting along because of something stupid, just be that middle guy that goes in there and says, guys, are we really creating all this bullshit about this one little issue? Like, it's ruining the rest of the organization. So, yeah, hear out both sides and do your best to mitigate the situation without choosing a side.
Listen, we're in the people business, right? I say this all the time about being in the people business, and we deal with a lot of different people. We deal with a lot of different personalities, and listen, sometimes we're not always going to get along. We're not always going to agree. It's just the way it is. It's unfortunate. So, whether it's knowing what's going on or you're going to get half the story, there's never going to be a true medium all the time. But you got to do your best you can.
Yeah, absolutely. You and I were talking about this before, but the nightclub / ski resort fire in Switzerland that killed, last I saw it was 40 people that were killed.
47.
47 now?
Yeah.
And
Over 100
over
injured.
100 injured. And it was eerily similar to the Station nightclub fire that we talked about a few episodes ago, because I saw some of the videos online.
Yep.
And you could see it looked like, I don't know if it was soundproofing.
It looked like, styrofoam
Yeah,
or something.
some sort of material that just immediately lit up. And the same deal, people kind of thought it was part of whatever was going on there.
It still amazed me, and the video that I did see, I did not hear a fire alarm going off. That's number one.
Yeah, that's right.
Number two was people didn't evacuate. I mean, I would say if you're not out of there in 2 to 3 minutes, you might not make it out. And I've mentioned this many times before about your situational awareness wherever you go, even when you're out with your family, your friends, other firefighters, right? Wherever you go. Every time I go into a restaurant, a bar, a nightclub, wherever I am, I'm looking for exits. I'm looking at the materials that are surrounding me. I'm looking at sprinkler systems if they're there. I constantly am educating myself on where I am, looking at the doorways, stuff like that. And even if there is an exit sign and there is another way out, it could be blocked.
Yeah.
So, you should always have 2 or 3 ways in or out of any type of building, and you have to be a firefighter every day, right? And that is, whether it's styrofoam or foam or whatever it was that was on the ceiling, probably some sort of soundproofing to keep the noise down. Obviously, they were using some sort of sparkler on champagne bottles, and supposedly they put this out on a regular basis that this is what they do, that nobody really looked into this, and this is why fire inspections and fire protection systems and actually fire marshals and what we do on a regular basis, and I know we love go fires, but then you have something like this, and we've repeated this, whether it was Happy Land Social Club, where somebody was an arsonist and tried to burn the place down, or the Station nightclub, it continues to happen. And we have a lot of great building codes in the United States of America. It's not always the same when you go to other countries.
Right.
So, but that fire, a very similar type of situation, Station nightclub, right? Guy's videotaping, sees it go on fire, starts moving towards the door, continues to videotape. And what got me is all the other people that started picking up their phones, like everything else. I got to videotape this. Some of those people are probably not alive right now.
100%.
So,
and the same deal,
you got to be making your way to the door and getting yourself and your friends out.
When he panned around to the front of the building, just the stacks of people on top of each other at that front set of stairs.
Same thing happened at Station nightclub.
Station nightclub.
The firefighters were basically, and Happy Land Social Club. If you listen to, I remember Paulie Soman. Paulie Soman was the nozzleman in that fire in the Happy Land Social Club. I think it was probably one of his first fires, but he was in 45 engine in the Bronx. And, you hear him talk about climbing over people to get in with the nozzle. And Rhode Island was the same thing, the Station nightclub fire, right? They had stacks of people in the doorway. They were just bottled up. They couldn't get out. So,
what's crazy too is when you watch, obviously the Happy Land fire. I don't think there's any footage of that, but the Station nightclub video.
Yep.
From the start of when the pyrotechnics go off and light the soundproofing on fire, to the point where there's flames coming out of every doorway and window of that place, is less than 10 minutes.
Yeah. So, I mean, look at the advancement of fire that we have nowadays. And obviously, things are getting worse, right? We talked about this in the last episode about the BTUs coming off of plastics and foam and rubber and stuff like that. So when we're talking about, the amount of water or the cooling power that we need in these fires, on top of that, just looking at how quickly these fires progress. They progress faster and faster, and if they have an avenue, they're going to continue to progress faster. So, once again, from the public standpoint, you got to be able to handle things quickly or get yourself out of that situation as fast as possible so that you're not going to get harmed. Because it's not just the fire, it's the smoke that's going to get you.
Yeah,
and that smoke is
absolutely.
so toxic now.
Oh, yeah.
It's so much worse than it was, back in the 70s and 60s and 50s. So, fire protection system getting better, codes are getting better, but not everywhere.
I wonder-
And we all travel, right? We go on vacation. You
Yeah.
go to, let's say you went to Cabo, Mexico, right? Or you're going to go to the Caribbean, or you're going to go to England or Paris, wherever, Ireland, right? Australia. You go to these different places. They don't have the same codes as us.
Right.
So you have to really be cognizant of where you are and your situational awareness all the time.
It's interesting with Mexico. I remember the resort that we were at had the exit signs that you could see, but when we went off the resort into that strip in Cancun, we were at this club and I was looking around for exit signs and I didn't see the typical exit signs you have, but their signs were these green and white placards that were on the wall that had an arrow pointing to out. So yeah, just like you said, you got to look around and take a look at signs that might be showing, hey, this is where the exit is. And I'm curious to know, and correct me if I'm wrong with this, I believe the Station nightclub fire was what spawned the mandate for fire alarm systems or sprinkler systems around the country, correct?
I mean, I think there were fire alarm systems before
There
that.
were, but I think that it became code. I think, at that point.
Usually, like anything else in the fire service, we are very reactive.
Yes.
Things start to change after, right? And this has gone on forever. Going back to, 1900s, early 1900s, some of these fires have changed a lot of code.
Yeah.
And, you look at, where was that fire recently with the high rise? What was that, China or Hong Kong or something?
I think it was Hong Kong.
Wherever it was, right? And the materials that are burning, or the materials on the outside of the building, the inside of the building, that was bamboo scaffolding that went up on that one. So, there will always be changes, there will always be code, but there will always be people taking shortcuts, right? I mean, we even talked about this. We use wood for the majority of our residential construction, and we build in the middle of a forest, and we still have wildfires that burn down houses. And we need to adopt and change with the times. But it's really sad, regardless of where you are in this world, that we continue to repeat the same fires over and over.
Yeah.
And I say the same thing with firefighter line of duty deaths. We repeat the same types of line of duty deaths over and over and over again. And we really shouldn't. We should have learned from the Station nightclub. We should have learned from the Happy Land. And now this is obviously, the Swiss Alps or what is it, Cranston, Montana. That's where it was. But in the Swiss ski resort.
Okay.
But, they didn't learn from the Station nightclub or the Happy Land. And we need to get this message out there, and part of this podcast is sharing and getting information out there for firefighters, but it needs to do the same for the public. And the public does not worry about fires until after they happen, or
Right.
somebody they know dies.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just the way it is, unfortunately. So your situational awareness when you're out and about with your friends is pay attention.
Yeah. I did notice at one point in one of the videos, there was these sliding glass doors that's a person from the outside was opening up and people were running out of it, but the sliding glass doors were fogged out. I guess it was more so for aesthetics than it was like a door, but it was still a door. But how many people probably had no idea that those were doors over there until somebody from the outside popped them open, and I saw a few people got out. It looked like there was one girl that came running out and looked like her clothes were a little burnt up, but then now all of a sudden all the smoke starts coming out. So
And then when you're opening that door, right, flow path, air's
Yeah.
trained into helping the fire advance and
Right.
everything else. And, obviously you got to get people out. You got to get the smoke out. There's a lot of different factors that go into it. But it's going to happen,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Just, overall sad situation.
Oh, God bless. I mean, it's so sad. Especially you're out celebrating for like New Year's,
Yeah.
and then this happens, right? Lives have changed, families have changed because of this.
Yeah,
and there may be
absolutely.
more. I mean, 100 people injured. There may be more.
Oh, for sure.
That's down the line, unfortunately.
Let's get into, this has been a topic of conversation.
Bubbling.
Yeah. Bunch of people have sent this to us to talk about the Floral Park Center Fire Department in Nassau County closed its doors at 11:59 p.m. December 31st after 100 years of service.
It's a shame, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely an unfortunate situation. They were a smaller district within Nassau County.
I think they were only like 1 square mile or something.
Yeah, something small. I think they had a couple of residential blocks. Their firehouse was actually in a residential area. Like their firehouse looked like a house. I think they had a 2019 Rosenbauer engine.
They do have a newer rig, yes.
Yeah. So I've actually been there. I've been to that firehouse before. But it's basically lack of volunteers, low funding. I'm not sure exactly what they had to do with their equipment. When they close the doors, like where did that engine go? Where does that
Well, it's
gear
probably
go?
owned by the village or the town, whoever's responsible for that area.
Yeah, and then
They can sell it, I guess, or they can donate it, or they could
yeah,
make
so
it part of another fire department.
yeah, was it New Hyde Fart? New Hyde
Fart?
New
What
Hyde
the hell
Park
was that?
Fire
New Hyde
Department.
Park Fire
Yeah.
Department is
Yes.
taking over their
They're
area.
taking over the district.
Yes. Are you okay today?
No. So
So yes, they have a very small district, 1 firehouse, and it is in a residential area. We all saw the post that went out. I don't know who put that out, whether it was a chief or a president or whatever from the organization, saying that between lack of volunteers and people in the community not volunteering and, the tax base, they need equipment and everything else. I think they have a very, very small commercial area, so they're probably not pulling a lot of money in from that.
yeah,
Taxes are already high on Long Island and lack of membership. So I don't know if I agree totally with the way the post went out, but, we knew this was coming. I thought I mentioned it on podcast. You said we might have talked on the side.
Yeah, we
I'd
talked
heard
on the side.
some things about this and this possibility of this happening. And it's a shame, tradition and reliability of your community, fire stations and fire departments and companies over time were always kind of the center focus of the communities around the country, and they're not anymore. Everybody used to gather in the social halls and stuff in these fire departments, and it just doesn't happen anymore. And everybody's busy, and Long Island is it's getting more and more affluent. It's richer and richer, and people are working 2, 3, 4 jobs, and some people just do not want to volunteer, and it's unfortunate. But when we get back into that, is it better to just shut down, or is it better to consolidate? And that we've talked about this before. Maybe some of these departments need to have the conversation of whether you're hiring people, going combination, or even consolidating with another fire department that's local to you. Even this particular fire department, Floral Park Center, you have Floral Park to the south, you have New Hyde Park to the north. What about consolidation and becoming a substation to one of these other fire departments? Whether it's Station 3, Station 4, Station 5, whatever, of another organization, and keeping the people you have. But to just blame requirements and training and, the public is not always the best, because we're trying to outfit and do the best we can for our communities. But there are avenues. So I don't know the whole gamut of what happened or what has been happening to get to this point. But I commend the people that volunteered for so many times and built the traditions of that department. And hopefully, they'll come up with solutions and making sure that the community is protected properly.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
I mean, luckily it's not a massive district that has to
it's
be
small.
broken apart by other departments, to cover. But, still, I mean, for people that don't live on Long Island is extremely municipal. There's villages all over the place. There's townships, hamlets, the two counties. So historically, a lot of these villages, the hamlets, have all created their own fire departments throughout the years. And some of these villages were real small and have been operating, like we just said, like Floral Park Center, that had an extremely small district, has been in service for 100 years. Mm-hmm. So it just got to a point, and Kevin, you and I were talking about that, it may not necessarily be one factor. It's probably a multitude of different factors, and that seems to be the issue with most departments across the country, that there's certain things that you can correct, there's certain things that you can change to try and make a struggling department better.
And I'm sure they were trying. I'm sure they were.
I'm not to say that they weren't, but there's certain things that you can do, like just helping out your organization from within, like we were talking about. People talk about, this place is toxic, blah, blah, blah. Well, start changing it. And there are definitely ways you can start changing it, whether you're an officer or not. But you make that department great from the inside. And Kevin, you mentioned it before. If you make your department good from the inside, recruitment will follow.
Yeah, I've always believed that if you clean up your own house, right? And I know there's multiple people that talk about this. You clean up your own house first, right? People will want to stay. You'll retain more people, and people will want to come in. It's just facts, right? If you have a shit toxic environment, who wants to join a shit toxic environment? They don't. Mm-hmm. And if they don't know, they're going to join, they're going to see it, and then they're going to leave. So how do you fix that problem? You got to fix your internal problems, and then the outside problems.
Right. And, I said before, and we were laughing about it, people say all the time, oh, everyone's too busy, blah, blah, all that stuff. And to some extent, sure, there are people that are extremely busy. There are people that work, those 3 or 4 jobs, support their family. You have the both parents in a household may be working nowadays, but one thing is everyone's got things that they like to do outside of the firehouse, whatever that may be. And we were laughing about before, as I was talking about my brother, who, he has a great job. His wife works. He's got 2 kids. He just joined an adult go-kart racing league, which is sick. But that's what he's doing in his spare time. And, they got to do qualifying races and all that stuff. Basically, what I'm getting at here is when we go out and start talking to people in the community, whether it's your younger members, the 18 to 25-year-olds, they know what that age group of people likes. Same deal with your middle-aged guys, and even some of the older guys. People that might be, and this is no offense to you, Kevin, so relax.
Wow.
But people in their 40s and 50s can still join the fire department.
I'm glad you think I'm in my 40s, which is great.
Yeah, but listen, we had a guy join our firehouse at the age of 63. Mm-hmm. Guy was in perfect physical shape, and he was able to get through firefighter 1, do what he had to do. But we're not talking enough to these people in the community. When you sit there and you say, "Oh, we terrible at recruiting, blah blah, all that stuff." Listen, you're just putting a sign out on the corner of a fucking intersection. Volunteers needed. Well, what else is in that? Can you actually sit down and talk to somebody, whether you're a parent at the sideline of your kid's soccer game, talking to other people your age about the fire department and what's good for them, or what's in it for them to join, or younger kids that are trying to figure out what they want to do in life, fire department's a perfect place to come in and start talking to people, see what other people are doing for careers, and network, and then do something awesome in the interim.
So one of the things, and I truly believe that homeowners, right, people that are established in your community are the perfect people for your fire department.
100%.
And they may not be the young kid. The young kid might go off to college, might relocate, right? They can't afford to live on Long Island, and it could be anywhere. So, people that are established or just moved into your neighborhood but would be the best. And one of the things I suggested and never went through, but if we can take the listings of everybody that buys a house in our communities and we send them a welcome package, right? A welcome package from the community. And we can talk to some of the businesses in town and everything else. But as soon as somebody moves in, right, we get the records from the town or whoever, right? Here's the list, right? We go down it. Here comes a package in the mail. We go to their house and we say, hey, welcome to our community. Here's the neighborhood. This is the Setauket Fire Department. This is what we're all about, or whatever department. Blah, 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 blah. Give them some, local restaurants and stuff, like a list of things and blah, 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 or maybe some discount coupons, whatever. But a welcome package from the fire department, and you give it to them along with an application and, hey, come down and join us on this weekend. We're going to have dinner, and let's talk about maybe you joining the fire department. But if we can catch these people as they're entering our communities or buying a house in the community, maybe we can welcome them in and get them as a member of our department. I don't know if that's the answer, but it was just something I came up with. We can easily get a list month to month of who's buying a home. Now, is everybody buying a home in your community going to join the fire department? No. Probably not. And some of them may have to do work on a house and other people buy houses in the community for different reasons, or they make them Airbnbs, or in my town, college rental homes, and it's a shame that this is what happens, but maybe there's different ways or thinking outside the box of getting people to join our departments. But there's a lot to it.
Yeah, and I think, we talked about the whole thing with 16-year-olds joining the fire department, which was a thing when I first joined. And now it seems that everyone has moved to the 18-year-olds. And like you just mentioned, the issue with that is getting young, fresh blood into the fire department at 18 years old. Those people might be going to college. They're not going to have time to do the Firefighter
Correct.
1 and stuff like that. Where if you do have a program like whatever that submission was from last week, 2 weeks ago, whatever it is, if you could start people at least taking Firefighter 1
In high school.
Or at the age of 16, and say they come into the fire department, you can get at the very least 1 or 2 years out of them before they decide they want to go off to school. Listen, there's plenty of businesses out there, like the big major like sales corporations out there that have the like small market sales teams. It's a churn and burn industry. They get kids fresh out of college, they teach them how to sell, and they work in that industry just making phone calls and selling, blah, 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 until they get a better offer at a different company, and then they leave. But they still get, those companies still get at least a year or two out of those people. They know they're going to be poached by other organizations out there, but they're still making money from these kids grinding it out. The same type of effect can be done in a fire department, where you get young kids that come in, you get a year or two out of them, and that's if they go off and go to college. But then when they come back for their breaks, Christmas break, Thanksgiving, summer break, whatever it is, well, now you have somebody who's trained up that can come back and offer you that time at their home. And who knows, maybe when they graduate college, they come back, live with their parents for a little bit, they're back to the firehouse, or they wind up buying a house in district. Yeah. There are so many different ways that you can
there's a lot.
It.
The thing about Long Island, it's very populated, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Nassau, right? I think it's like 1.5 million residents or something, somewhere in that, and Suffolk's probably a little more than that. I think it's up almost 2, so 3 million.
I think it's way more than that. I think it's like 8 million here.
Is it that many?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. But anyway, look at, and we've talked about this before, why do we take members that move from town to town or jurisdiction to jurisdiction, and they're a firefighter or an officer or whatever in this department, and then they move to this department, they want to join, and we make them a probie for a year, right? And I've talked about this. Why don't we have lateral transfers? Right? And you look at people that move from town to town to town, and there are people that moved from other communities or firefighters in other jurisdictions and came to my town, and we've told them either you want to be a probie or you got to start over again, and everybody does this. Or one day, you're running mutual aid to me, and it's okay that you could be a firefighter, but the next day you can't wear an SCBA if you join my department, right? It's kind of ridiculous. We should have lateral transfers. You should be able to move from department to department. Obviously there's got to be a feeling out period and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But we're losing a lot of firefighters, right? I know there's a lot of New York City firefighters that live in my town, and they don't want to join, or they won't join because they're going to become a probie again. Why? That's a well-trained firefighter. They go to fires every day, but now they can't go to fires every day.
Right.
It's ridiculous. So we're losing a lot of people, and we're losing good people that are quality homeowners in our towns, right? And the other night we went out New Year's Eve to dinner, and I ran into a guy that joined my department for a short time, and he was from another town, and he wound up as a probie. He had to miss Yaphank, and he was thrown out of my department. And I thought it was ridiculous. He had to go on a business trip. Like, this is the way it is. Good guy. We talked, and it's a shame because there was a good quality guy from a good department on Long Island that we lost. And he refused to come back. And, now he's in his 50s, he'll probably never come back. And it's unfortunate because there's a good guy in my neighborhood that could have helped out.
Yeah.
And it's a shame. It's a shame that we do this to people. And I understand there has to be rules, there has to be requirements. You have to be able to do certain things. But we're losing good quality volunteers in our own neighborhoods. And shame on us for not molding or changing to help these people.
And when we say to change and adapt and evolve, like you say all the time, I think a big part of that, like, people understand that, but the other part of it is to look at your bylaws, to look at your SOPs and SOGs and kind of figure out, all right, what still works and what is something that we can change to improve retention or lateral transfers coming in. Because when we had Aaron Heller on, he talked about the people like us that joined when we were real young, and we've been in the fire service, and then all of a sudden, you meet...
Life changes.
Yeah, you meet your wife, you get married, you have a kid, you buy a house, and things start to slow down. But that doesn't make you any less of a firefighter than what you were when you first joined.
Yes, but you got to maintain training and stuff.
I get that. And for the
Right.
most part, I've seen people who have come down and maintained training, but maybe struggled to come down to calls because they got a newborn at home. And now they're...
Scheduled time, duty crews is always good, right?
Yeah,
and we talk about this as well.
Yeah, but then you see people that have been in a fire department for, 20, 30 years that they've given a lot to the fire department, and then just because they had a small life change, and there's these rules that have been around for 100 years.
I agree.
Now they're getting chopped.
Yep.
And the thing is, the chief's office or commissioners, whoever it is that's in charge, will come and say, well, I get it, we like you, we're great, but we have to follow our bylaws, which is also a great mindset to have. You're going to follow your own rules.
You have to follow rules.
Yes, but when you're looking around at your department and you're reactivating for calls, people aren't showing up to meetings and drills, you got to start figuring out why that's happening. And if you know that you're losing good firefighters because just in the past year or so they started getting low on their points because they had a life event come up, well, those people, they want to be firemen. They want to volunteer.
We hope they do. Not everybody. There are some that don't.
I'm talking specifically about the guys that really try their
No,
best.
I know. I know what you're saying.
And what happens when you lose guys like that, guys that are knowledgeable or guys that are just fun to be around, they make great conversation. When you lose guys like that, it breaks up the camaraderie inside the firehouse as well. And
Look, I met a guy a week ago. He's a probie of a neighboring department of mine. He lives in my district, and I'm not going to get into the battles of district lines and everything else, but he joined the other fire department instead of my fire department, right? And we do this, right? People take people from different districts and jurisdictions and everything else. We're fighting over the same people. And if this was the Suffolk County Fire Department, it wouldn't be an issue what station you go to. Who cares, right? It's just a response person. It's another firefighter. But we shoot ourselves in the foot a lot of times because of rules, because of the way it's always been, because we don't want to make changes. But we need firefighters. And if we need firefighters, and we talked about this in the last episode a little bit, right? I said there's about 600,000 volunteer firefighters throughout the country.
Yeah.
Okay. It's somewhere in that, right? Yeah, you confirmed that, right? It was right around there, 600,000 to 700,000.
Yeah,
so I'm pretty sure that's right. If you actually look at that 600,000, how many of them are actual firefighters, interior structural firefighters, out of that number? Mm-hmm. It's probably a very small percentage of that 600,000.
I would agree with that.
Okay. Not only that, look at my department, right? I have over 100 members. But I have a lot of EMS only people. They're not firefighters. I have a lot of fire police people. They're not firefighters anymore. And then we have a group of people that are exterior firefighters. Mm-hmm. So when you really look at these numbers and say we have 600,000 firefighters down from 900,000, it's not true. You probably have life members in that number. You have people that don't even respond in that number. So we, as a volunteer fire service throughout this country, is a very, very small, minute amount now. And it's a shame, And I understand there's rules, there's changes and everything else, but we don't have a lot of firefighters. And we're all hurting. And we have to fix that somehow. Because otherwise, the inevitable is we're going to see more things like Flora Park Center, fire departments just closing up shop. Or we have to start being serious about consolidation or looking at new avenues to retain firefighters. And we're not doing it.
Or we also have... people talk about the training requirements and stuff like that. And
I think training is super important.
I agree with you 100%.
100%.
But now when you look at, I don't know how it is around the rest of the country, but for the most part, Long Island, like when I joined, they said you have a year to complete Firefighter 1. And
which can be very difficult nowadays.
Right. And so what I'm saying is when that year would come up, if you didn't complete it yet, it would go up to the executive board, and basically your captain of your company would ask the chief for an extension. Mm-hmm. And you would need to complete it within that extension. And if you don't complete it, then you get dropped from the roles of the department. Now, is there something where, because from what I see is Firefighter 1 is a little bit more extensive from when I took it, and now because of the age change, you have 18-year-olds that are maybe doing college courses, and then on top of that, they're doing Firefighter 1. Is there something that says, hey, like maybe instead of 1 year, we give you 2 years? Mm-hmm. So you could still get the training you need to get in, but you just might be considered a probie for a little bit longer.
We've done that because we've had probies that weren't able to get into Firefighter 1 in time to complete it in a year. So we've had probies a year and a half.
Yeah, and then
we've had probies almost up to 2 years.
Right, you get that
they didn't
too.
Finish all the requirements.
And the funny thing, and again, this might just be a problem here, not a problem, actually a good thing, but when that Firefighter 1 registration pops up, you got to be on it right away before it fills up.
Well, the county they've expanded, and they give a lot of Firefighter 1s now.
Yeah, that's...
So that we can try to ensure that everybody gets in.
Right.
But, there are people that get in and then wind up dropping because they can't meet those dates, or they can't meet the training requirements and they have to change it, or it's a conflict with something they're doing. And I get it. There's always going to be issues. But, we got to try to retain the people we have, too. Which is a big problem. And you look at the last, I want to say 10 to 15 years in the fire service, and I see it more and more, is retread officers, right? Mm-hmm. They go through, lieutenant, captain, they go back to being an ex-captain firefighter, then they go back in as lieutenant again or back in as captain again. Chiefs going in over and over again, and I talked about this before. I just saw A friend of mine that's going in for the fourth time as chief of department of his fire department here on the island. It's amazing that we're repeating and repeating and repeating, and another neighboring department of mine just recently got rid of their company officers and now have department-wide officers. So they used to have a couple companies with a couple captains, a couple lieutenants. Now they just have a department-wide captain, a department-wide lieutenants, because their ranks are dwindling, and it's getting to be a problem. When you turn around and every person on the rig is an officer, and we have no firefighters, that's a problem. Now, obviously, when you're sitting in the back, you're basically riding down or riding up, and they do this in the paid service too, where a chief can ride down in the officer seat of a rig, or, a firefighter can ride up into the lieutenant's seat or whatever. Paid departments have this too when they're short-staffed. That's not a problem, but when everybody's an officer and no firefighters, we have all chiefs and no Indians.
Yeah.
So that's a problem too, but we're seeing these changes in the fire service. Another one out east where the chiefs just keep recycling for, assistant chief to chief, first assistant chief to chief, going back and forth. And it's because we don't have people that are joining. We're not retaining people. We don't have people that are qualified or trained for these positions. I talked about this where we have, you don't know what you're getting from your neighboring department. We don't know what the training level is of the department next to me. I don't know what the SOPs are of every department that surrounds me. This is a problem. We should all be on the same page, and we're not. So, how do we bolster this in the volunteer system? How do we bolster the ranks? How do we bolster our officers that we're not retreading the same officers? And you know what? Maybe they are good officers. Maybe the whole idea of a chief in rank for a year position or 2 years is far-fetched. Maybe a chief should be in there longer. Maybe a chief should hold on for 4 years, 5 years, 10 years. Some of them are going to just say, I don't want to do that. That's ridiculous. Yeah. But in rural departments, you see sometimes a chief's in for 10 years. Mm-hmm. But there's consistency. But then on the other side, if that's a toxic chief officer, that could be a big problem to your department. So, in the paid system, they appoint somebody or they hire somebody to be a paid chief or paid assistant chief or vice versa. So there's so many different avenues. And like I said, you look at the length of Long Island and how many different companies, departments, districts, villages, and everything else. We're not all on the same page.
Yeah, it's funny you mention with the retreads. Like, there's a department that they have a chief. I don't know how long he just kind of loops around.
Yep.
In the chief's office.
There's a local department here that does that.
I know, and it's not because they're hurting necessarily. It's basically he's just a solid leader. And the guys love him in the chief's office, and everyone seems to be on board with it, and he's cool with it. So they just keep all right, he's done.
And one of them's a paid district employee that basically is a paid chief. He's a paid firefighter, paid chief. And there's, listen, if it works, it works.
Yeah, and he's got a great.
It's just a shame we don't want to call them a paid firefighter.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, in general, you do have people that go on his retreads because people respected how they were.
Some people are very good and they're good leader, and that's great.
And then the other part of it is the people who don't want to step up, and that's a direct result of us not teaching or coaching potential candidates,
mentoring people to be good officers.
Right.
And, I talk about having a deep bench. You should have multiple people, and you should have people that could take your position over tomorrow. Mm-hmm. That's the only way the department will evolve and move on.
Yeah. And, there's... we talk about a lot of things. Sometimes we mulch over the same shit, but a great way to do that is, to find a potential new officer, find someone that's really just all about it. They love to train. They come down for the calls. They have good rapport with the other members. And then just, if you're the officer, put them in charge of something. Put them in charge of doing a drill, or put them to a committee, that handles something within your company, and just see how they do. Be there to mentor them and see how the members react to it. Say if this person decides they're going to run a force entry drill. Have them do it. Have them do the critique. and then basically you critique them in private after and say, hey, great job, could have done this better. Then go talk to the other members. Hey, how did you think that drill went? How do you think so-and-so did that drill? That's going to start giving you the idea that, all right, this guy, he's going to be the next one up. And it doesn't have to be one person. Find 3 guys that you think, all right, these guys have a little bit of experience now. They come down, they're around all the time. Everyone seems to like them. Let's test their ability to run a drill. We've seen how they are riding front seat, being OIC for, a smaller alarm or whatever. And then you start mentoring those people and getting their ideas and seeing if they want to be an officer. And if they tell you, yeah, I've thought about it, well, that's a great first step right there.
Some people just don't have the time, and that's the other thing. And just because you're around all the time because you have the time doesn't mean you're the best leader either or the best firefighter. You can go to a lot of training and still suck.
Yes.
You got to be good at your craft, and you got to continue to learn.
Another big part of
but
that.
It is a good start to
Yes.
finding somebody that would meet that mold.
If you're good, like if you do have an officer that comes in that's good at what they do, and maybe they don't have all the time in the world, well, that's where delegation's important. Where there are certain things that they don't have to be done by the officer, that you can grab the next person up. And
Well,
be
that's
like,
where your senior members and people
Yes.
that are around, right? They step up
as
to lead.
long as you're keeping the membership happy, you're keeping
can't
everyone
keep
coming
everybody
to,
happy.
Can't keep
everyone
I'm a big
happy.
proponent of you can't keep everyone happy, but you should absolutely try. Because if you just go with that mentality, I can't make everyone happy. Well, how many people are you alienating?
No, it's not about alienation, right? I mean, not everybody's going to be pleased with every decision.
Absolutely.
I'll never be pleased with every decision
Right.
that's made. But you roll with the punches. You try to make it better. Everybody has to step up, right? And that's what makes the departments and companies whole. So the more you have people step up, you're going to fuck up. It's going to happen, right? Usually the people that are most actives and do the most are usually the people that get themselves into trouble from time to time. It just happens. So just do what you can, keep people informed around you, and then everything usually goes well.
Yeah. And then just keep tech going. It's the other part of it too is consistency. Everyone
As
likes
best
to
you
get a
can.
little hoorah. They listen to something, they try to implement something, and maybe somebody will shit on them for it, and then it's like, all right, I'm done with that. You got to be consistent. It starts with you. You have to start somewhere, and mold everyone that's coming up underneath you to do the same thing. Like, how many times have you seen a great leader in a firehouse that, say, it could be a company officer, like company captain, or a chief officer? They get out of office and things were running great. The next guy up fucks the whole place up because they never mentored that person to fill their seat the same way.
Well, you can mentor somebody all you want, and they can, what if you to death or say yes, 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 and then have a whole different philosophy when you leave.
There is that too.
It happens, I mean, there are times where I've seen people that everybody's on board, and then that one person leaves and the other guy just says, fuck it, I'm going to do what I want, and that's part of the problem with, the volunteer fire service are changing officers and changing seats and, every 2 years is that there's a major change in a 2-year period.
Well,
other times things stay exactly the same.
I believe it was Glenn Houston on the show when he said that he took over that one department, and he told him he was not going to, he wouldn't step up as chief unless they gave him, I think he said like 4 years to really,
It takes time.
to really build everything together. Because he said, if I'm in there for 2 years, I'm going to start a process, and then boom, the next guy comes in, and this is a brand new fire department. How do we know that we're on the same page? So maybe sometimes retreads, like the one case we were talking about, where there's great leaders that a department is very comfortable with how this person leads the department. Hey, let's put you back in, unless there's another good leader that can step up to the plate. And then there's the other departments out there that, because the way leadership runs in their department, it scares other people away from being an officer because they don't want to deal with all the shit that their officers are dealing with. So,
and I'm not looking to shit on anybody or anything, but, when you look at commissioners, right, and some people have big problems with commissioners, some people don't, but, the reason why there's more consistency with a board is because, and if they have a district manager, even more so, right? The district manager is in there for a long period of time usually, right? And they keep things running. They're the manager of the 5 commissioners. And the commissioners changes each year. So to change an entire board, it takes at least 5 years to change an entire board. Where your chiefs, right? Usually your chief of department's in charge, and you're either going to have 2 or 3 assistants below you. And the chief takes charge, they make their policy and changes, and then in 2 years, the next guy steps up and makes his policies and changes. And they should all talk together, but that chief is the one that has to decide and figure out, where the priorities are within the organization.
Yeah.
Where the commissioners, the 5 of them decide what the priority is, and they majority vote 3. And it's the same thing if you have trustees instead of commissioners, same idea, right? 3 is the majority. You need at least 3 people to make a decision. And that doesn't always happen in the chief's ranks, right? You don't come up to a vote and say, this is what we want to do. Are you guys all in agreement? Some chiefs do that. Some chiefs don't. And as much as, even when I was chief, sometimes would ask everybody their opinion, we didn't always agree. But in the end, the chief of department is the one that makes the final decision, right? So, and like I said, I'm not shitting on anybody in the way they do things. Like, there were things that chiefs had in mind, and I said, you know what, that's not a priority right now. I have to make the decision as the chief. This is the priorities that we have to deal with right now. So it just happens that way.
And I think, because I've seen it too, where I've been in departments where the chief's office got along real well with the board, and any decisions the chiefs wanted to do, board seemed to be, on board with it.
Running the operational part of the department.
Yeah, and then there's also been chiefs that bumped heads with the board.
Correct.
And because of that bullshit, that bumping heads up top, all the shit trickled down into the rest of the department. And it spoils the whole organization. And I don't think that there's enough of understanding where, maybe a chief goes up, and this was even, I figured this out from being an officer and talking to chiefs at exec boards. We'd want to do something, and chiefs would shut it down. And then in my mind, I'd be like, what the fuck? Like, why would you shut that down? But I didn't ask them their reasoning for it. And I didn't ask them their reasoning for it in the correct tone. Instead of me just being like...
Listen, it happens. I've done good and bad on both sides of it.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, there's ways to talk to people where it doesn't have to be you're smashing heads, where you can get a better understanding. We talk about the one-on-one conversations. If there's a specific commissioner, like what you just said, chief came up to you about something, you said that's not priority right now. Maybe afterwards that chief could grab you and be like, hey, like, just curious why this, what do you guys have going on that this doesn't work out? And obviously you would say it a little bit differently, but get a better understanding so that every time you have a commissioners meeting, it's not like, oh, fuck, I got to go up and talk to these guys. It's going to be another shit show. And then you go to the exec board and you start shitting on all the captains and lieutenants, and then there's your spoiled organization.
Listen, it will never be perfect.
It will never be
regardless. Perfect. There were things that I wanted to do on the board that the rest of the board said no. They said, this is not a priority. This is not, and there were times where I was chief where I went to the board and they said, no, this is not a priority, or there's no money, or it's not budgeted, or whatever. There are so many factors that go into this stuff. Communication and how you convey the message back and forth is super important.
Oh, 100%.
And
I think that's
even,
the most important
even
thing.
if you do, you still may not get the proper communication
for sure,
or the way it's transferred. And there are things that the board cannot say or do because of legal guidelines and things. So there's so many factors, and how messages are received and transferred, and how things are done, or what the priorities are of the organization. It's going to change from time to time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes things are good, sometimes things are bad. And, we even, when I was chief, we'd go out sometimes and meet with the commissioners on the side. We'd have, separate meetings, or a dinner meeting or whatever, just have a conversation to try to keep up a good rapport. And even that didn't always work. It's just, listen,
you will have
we are going to deal with a lot of different personalities. It's just the way it is. And sometimes they just don't like you. It's just the way it is.
No, 100%. But if we at least try...
Listen, we're always trying, but
Are we?
I've always tried,
I know
regardless.
You have.
I
know
always
you
have.
But
Even
there's
when people
plenty-
didn't think I was always trying because I want to see a successful organization.
Absolutely.
And I want to see successful services for my community all the way around. And you might not agree with the way I do it. You might not agree with the tone all the time. You may not agree with the way it's done. But it's always been in the best interest of the public and our response and the organization as a whole. Not just the department, the district, the department, everything together.
Right.
It has to be that way.
I agree, 100%. With that,
I think that's a wrap.
I think that is a wrap.
Ryan's falling asleep over there. No, he's not. He's doing well. So, yep, beginning of the new year, 2026, we have a lot to look forward to. I think we had a great year last year, and hopefully a blessed 2026 with the way things are going with this podcast. And keep up your stuff. And like I said, we're still looking for sponsors. We're still looking to come out to you. We're still looking to create some stuff to help your organizations grow and advance and evolve into the new years.
Absolutely.